All right. Hello, and welcome to this episode where I'm going to share an analogy of fighting an imaginary enemy. And I really hope this is an analogy that you can take with you and that it helps you on your journey to recovery. So, for those of you that don't know me, real quick, my name is Matt Codde, and I am the founder of Restored Minds and the creator of the AAA Response. And if you are looking for help with OCD and anxiety, I have some resources down in the notes for you to get you started, as well as you can head over to restoredminds.com and complete an application for our Taking Back Control 12-week program. So, and then also, if you are a listener or a viewer of the show, please help us out by liking and subscribing, as well as leaving a comment or review on Spotify and iTunes, because it helps the algorithm of our show. So today, again, I just wanted I'm going to keep this episode probably a little shorter than normal because I don't want to, I want to share this analogy and I just kind of want to let it sit, and I want you to take it with you in your day. So the analogy is of a person who's fighting, or let's just say you can use like a whole, castle, or, a king, or just a person defending his property against an imaginary enemy. So, let's pretend that, this person has like a farm, right? And, he has the thought one day, well, like, what if someone that lives out in the woods, let's say there's like this kind of on the tree line from his farm, he's worried that there's a bunch of people out there and that he is going to protect all his stuff from those people because he's worried, well, what if they come in and take my stuff? What if they come in and hurt me, right? So he has these what if fearful thoughts, and therefore then responds to them by trying to protect himself from that potential threat. So what he does is he starts building a defense around his farm. So maybe he like builds a fence, and then he builds like spikes on the fence, and then the next day he builds a moat, and then day after that he sets up like traps, and he just spends day after day fortifying his defenses of his property, and day after day no one attacks him, right? And the issue is, and so what he makes the assumption of is that because of his defenses, no one's attacking him. And then therefore he fortifies the defense more and fortifies the defense more. And the more he does that, again, day after day after day, no one attacks him. No one comes and takes his stuff. And what he doesn't realize is that there is no one there in the woods. He's hundreds of miles from the nearest people. But he spends his day building this defense that he believes is working, that actually is just a complete facade. Now, I thought of this analogy when I was kind of, I was having a conversation with someone and we were kind of talking about this. So this kind of came up and came to the surface. And the reason I share it is because this is really what the life of someone with OCD and anxiety is like. You're engaging in, you have these what if thoughts. And generally, they're scary. They cause you to feel fear, right? And so we do things to, neutralize those feelings and neutralize those possible scenarios. But the paradox is that when we do things, while it does make us feel better, it validates that was a real threat. Okay, so our brain keeps producing it and we keep doing these behaviors. And, I don't know if it was, I think it was either Mark Twain or Winston Churchill. And maybe they both said it, I don't know, but I've heard it quoted both ways. But, they, on their deathbed or at the end of their life, said something to the effect of, hey, I've experienced so much suffering in my life and most of it never happened, something to that effect. And this is really what OCD and anxiety is like, right? You're teaching your nervous system that there's this threat, and doing all these behaviors to neutralize that threat and neutralize this threat and neutralize this threat. And you spend your day after day after day after day doing this. And all to come to find that there was no threat. Like that that thing I was worried about never happened. It never was going to happen, you know? And the tragedy of it is, if I think about the farmer, is how much joy he could have just had spending his life enjoying his day, right? Like being with his family, tending to whatever he does throughout the day, enjoying the weather, enjoying the rain, enjoying the sunsets, right? Eating good meals with his family, all that stuff. And there's going to be part of you listening to this that are going to say, well, yeah, but what if it did happen, right? Then what? Okay. Yeah. I mean, like, there's that risk that we take, right? And even then, who's to say that his defense would even work, right? Like people couldn't figure out a way around it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of the philosophy is like, you don't need to spend your days protecting yourself against tomorrow, you know? And because you can't come up with all the stuff that like could happen in life. This is, I see, the shows out there like preppers and stuff, and you hear these people, hey, we've been preparing for 20 years, 30 years. They just, every week they spend, canning goods, and because of a certain thing that they fear is going to happen, whether it's an electrical grid breakdown or, the volcanic eruption, a massive earthquake, a super tornado, whatever, a tsunami. Their mind comes up with this potential threat, and then they spend their lives trying to counteract it and prepare it. And the real tragedy is, like, what if that never happens? Like, this is the biggest what if question you need to ask yourself when it comes to OCD and anxiety, is like, what if this really is just OCD and anxiety? Like, what if that's all that's actually happening? That is the scary question. That question should terrify you more than any other what if thought out there, in my opinion. Because in my experience, right, all the what if stuff that I used to worry about, it never happened. And even on the off chance that my mind produced a what if scenario and then it actually happened, like, what if, I don't know, this person doesn't show up for the meeting or something like that, right? It's usually something small. I was always able to handle it then. Like, for most of us, the tragedy of OCD and anxiety is the suffering today, preparing for something terrible potentially tomorrow. And we do that day after day after day after day. And on that path, we suffer every single day. Every single day. And then when you, like, one of the hardest things to look at is, especially if we spent a lot of time ruminating about something or doing a lot of compulsions about a certain thing, one of the scariest things to look at is like, hey, what if we're doing this all for nothing? Like, what if that farmer is making all these defenses and no one ever comes? What did he miss out on? That's the reason we do the work right there. That question is the reason why we pursue recovery. Because we say, hey, you know what? Like, I don't know the future. I don't know what it holds in store for me, for you, for anyone. But what I do know is I have right now. I have right now. And I can maximize right now, or I can suffer right now and trying to prepare for potential bad outcomes tomorrow. It's a total choice of how you want to pursue your life. And again, I'm not saying there's not such thing as delayed gratification and that you should never even think about tomorrow. Like, don't take this to these black and white extremes and to defend living in this loop. This is one of the big traps that I think people do, is they hear something like this and they're like, yeah, but what if this, and what if this, Matt, you need to think about this, and I need to use my mind for this. And they literally justify staying in it. They justify staying in it. And what I'm saying is that the only place freedom exists is right now. And it's a choice you get to make. And for many of us, we're fighting an imaginary enemy that's not real and is never going to show up. And that is true suffering, in my opinion. And what recovery is about taking a step back from what we're doing and saying, like, what if this is just really OCD? What if this is just anxiety? I'll leave with this because I talk about this show in my workshop, but the show Better Call Saul. And, the character Chuck McGill, he is talking to this doctor. And, in my opinion, in the show, he wrestles with OCD and anxiety. And he says this like profound statement. He's just like, essentially his fear gets disconfirmed to him. And he's just like, what if this is all in my head? And has this like shock factor on his face. And if that's true, like, what have I done? Because he's essentially just dismantled his whole life based on this fear. And that's the power of the mind right there to, the power of OCD, the tragedy of living with OCD and anxiety. And the thing is that you can break out of it. You absolutely can. You can choose to live your life differently. And yes, like the resources in the notes are a great starting point, or, obviously you can head over to restoredminds.com, because really seeing this and getting honest with yourself, like, am I fighting an imaginary enemy that's never going to come? That question should scare you a bit, to be honest, because like that's what a lot of people do. And the thing is, if you're listening to this, you don't have to continue doing that. That's what I would say. So I hope this analogy was helpful. I know it's not necessarily the most uplifting, but my hope is that it provides a turning point for someone. Maybe it's you, maybe it's not. But this, let me step back and look at what I'm doing, as opposed to just letting my mind dictate this path I'm on, and letting my fear drive me in life, because that's imprisonment. Freedom is really not just about like being able to do what you want with your time, but the ability to do what you want from a state of peace, to not live from fear. So with all that said, I hope this message is well received, and I hope it helps you on your journey. And check out the links in the notes for additional resources, and you can head over to restoredminds.com. And then also, if in our FAQ series, you feel free to submit a question if you have a question that you'd like us to answer on the show. So thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Hey there, hope you enjoyed that recent video. We really would appreciate your support real quick if you could like and subscribe to our channel. And if you're looking for help with OCD and anxiety, please check out the links below or visit restoredminds.com, as we'd be happy to help you on your journey. Thanks so much.